All right, today we are going to start in on 8-3-1. We'll finish up on Wednesday when you guys are back here in school. But I want to make sure that you guys get at least a little bit of probably the easier part here in this lesson. And so today we are looking at dividing polynomials, okay, or polynomial division. So it starts with this kind of puzzle that they call a polydoku, okay, which is really what this is at its core is some type of puzzle or game, if you will, but really it's like an area model. So I'm going to give you a few seconds here, pause the video. I do want you to actually read through your notes here of kind of what is happening here because we're going to kind of come back to this and work with this here today. I don't think this video is going to be super long. Today we're really only going to work with these polydoku puzzles and these kind of area model of this. So pause the video here, read through this, make sure you kind of have an understanding specifically this part here on the polydoku craze sweeping the nation. And so pause here. So hopefully you kind of read through this, have a good idea. This is again really like our window pane or area model pane, where we're taking 2x to the third times 3x to get 6x to the fourth. Negative x squared times 3x to get negative 3x to the third. And then we're really looking to combine any like terms, which are often our diagonals. So these combine, these combine, these combine. Okay? So we're starting with kind of moving forwards with multiplying or this area or window pane. Okay? And so how would we find other roots? This is where we start to add in this division slash kind of factoring idea, which we'll start doing here at the end today. Okay, so we are going to first kind of work back with this original Sudoku or Polydoku puzzle. Okay, so it's asking, where do we get the 2x squared here? Okay, so I'm going to highlight it here in purple. I'll actually highlight it. So this 2x squared, how are we getting that? Okay, well, this is the multiplication of, we look here, negative x squared times the negative 2 gets me positive 2x squared. Okay, switching gears here a little bit, it says, how do we get, I'll switch here to blue, this negative 7x to the third? Again, this is the combining of like terms. Combining like terms after we multiplied, and this would be that negative 3x to the third plus negative 4x to the third gives me my negative 7x to the third. So here's kind of a new one. I want you to try to do this one here on your own. So pause the video here, multiply and combine like terms to see if you can figure out what 2x minus 3 times 4x third plus 6x squared minus 2x minus 5 is. So pause the video here, see if you can solve this. So multiplying here, I get 8x to the fourth, 12x to the third, doesn't really matter what order you go, minus 4x squared minus 10x. And I'm just multiplying this by the top. Similarly on the bottom, I get negative 12x to the third, negative 18x squared, plus 6x, plus 15. So then when I combine like terms, again, I'm looking for diagonals. I want to point something out here in just a minute after we do this, okay? So I have 8x to the fourth. Right now, I want to point this out. This square and this square, notice we have no like terms that combine these, okay? So I'm just combining these other ones. I get plus 0x to the third minus 22x squared minus 4x plus 15. And this is fine. You could cut out this part if you wanted, but for our purposes, it's kind of nice to know that that's there and accounted for. So hopefully this part is actually not super new for you. This is really just kind of the area part. What we are doing now is kind of getting some pieces here that we need to fill in. So we now have kind of some of the pieces. We need to be able to work backwards to get some of these other parts. Okay, so as I look here, we can think of this a couple different ways. We have x times what gets me 2x to the fourth, or 2x to the fourth divided by x is going to get me 2x to the third. And I'm just kind of looking to fill in these pieces to make sure that I can fill everything up. Okay, so then I can take 2x to the third times negative 4 and get negative 8x to the third. Okay, now I'm looking at this. I'm going to try to color code this as best I can, which maybe will make it more confusing, but hopefully not. So I have negative 4 times what gets me 12x squared. It's going to be negative 3x squared. And then again, I can fill in this next one. So now I have negative 3x squared times x gets me negative 3x to the third. This one I already have. So negative 2x times x is going to be negative 2x squared. So the confusing part then is knowing when we're dividing versus when we're multiplying. It's going to give me 8x. Now this last part is a little bit tricky in that I need my 8x and this to equal 12x. And this is now adding. So we're kind of adding all the pieces to the puzzle here. So this has to be a 4x, which means this has to be a 4, which means this has to be a negative 16. So then when I combine all of this with my diagonals, I have 2x to the fourth minus 11x to the third plus 10x squared. I should have plus my 12x minus 16. Okay? So now it just kind of asks us to be able to relate these, or really what I can say here throughout the whole thing is that x minus 4, that's this part here, times 2x third minus 3x squared minus 2x plus 4, that's this part here, is equal to the very last part. I'll do in pink. 2x to the fourth minus 11x to the third plus 10x squared plus 12x minus 16. And that's what I got here. Okay. So lastly, we just kind of have to kind of answer these questions on how they relate. So give you a second, pause the video again, and answer these questions. So it says, how is B2 related? Okay. This doesn't combine and is my first term and highest power. All right, it says, how do we get our third term? So 1, 2, 3, how do we get 10x squared? This was by taking B4, this one, negative 2x, plus C3, this one here, all right, or negative 2x to the squared plus 12x squared, got me 10x squared. And lastly, how did we get B5? B5 is this one here. Okay. We said we know B5 plus B6, or C6, no, C4, has to equal 12x. We knew C4 was 8x. Therefore, B5 had to be 4x to get 12x. Okay? So then the last one that we are going to do today, and we'll pick up later then on Wednesday when you come back, is what if we are just given one of our factors and our answer? How do we get to what this actually factors to be? So, couple things that we need to know. Similar to what we just said here, B2, okay, is always going to be my first term, or this one and this one will always be our first and our last term. So I know then my first term is 6x to the third, okay? I also know that my last term is going to be 10, and that's from here, okay? Now I should be able to fill out really quite a bit, if not all of the rest. So 2x times what gets me 6x to the third? This is going to be 3x squared. Then I can multiply. 3x squared times 5 gets me 15x squared. I need these to combine to be 7x squared. So this is going to have to be, I'll switch colors again, negative 8x squared. So then, working backwards, 2x times what gets me negative 8x squared? It's going to be negative 4x. 4x times 5 gets me negative 20x. And again, kind of the last piece here, these two have to multiply to get me my negative 16x squared. So this is going to be a positive 4x. Or I could work backwards here. 5 times what gets me 10? This is going to be a 2. Double check. 2x and 4x gets me this. So we're going to pause there for today. Okay. And we'll kind of pick up and maybe even show you a different way on Wednesday. So hopefully you are starting to get a pretty good idea of this PowiDoku puzzle.